Have you ever bent your back just to be seen by someone who never once looked with love? Brother, there's a slavery more silent than chains. It's the kind where you hand over your peace for a kiss, your dignity for her approval, and call it love. Epictetus warned us long ago. The moment you let someone else dictate your emotions, you've already given away your freedom. This isn't hate, it's a reckoning. This isn't about her, it's about you and the man you've forgotten to be. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely find value here. Because what follows might sting, but it just might set you free. There's a quiet slavery most men willingly walk into without chains or whips, but rather with smiles and whispered promises. Imagine, as Epictetus once invited us, a man who spends his entire existence rehearsing a role he was never meant to play. A silent actor whose performance is never applauded, whose script is written by another's shifting moods and unpredictable desires. This man wakes each day not to freedom, but to a quiet dread disguised as devotion. His currency is not gold, but approval, fleeting and fragile as a whisper. Epictetus understood this subtle captivity deeply. Born into actual slavery, he realized early what freedom truly meant. Not the absence of physical chains, but the mastery of oneself. Yet today, thousands of years later, men still bind themselves willingly, exchanging their peace for the brief illusion of acceptance. They chase validation from women who can never fully give it, seeking permanence in places defined by their impermanence. And each time they do, a piece of their dignity quietly slips away, unnoticed but deeply felt. If this truth stings, then good, it means you're still awake enough to feel it. Epictetus warned us clearly. If a man gave your body to any stranger he met along the way, you'd be outraged, yet you freely surrender your mind, your heart, your peace, to the whims and approval of another without hesitation. Have you no shame? And yet, how many men live precisely this way? Trading dignity for affection, freedom for a glance, self-respect for the hope that someone might choose them again tomorrow. It's a silent slavery because the chains aren't visible. They're emotional, psychological, spiritual. You don't see them until you're already bound tight, choking on compromises you once swore you'd never make. Your spine softens slowly, day by day, bending under the weight of expectations never your own, tolerating disrespect disguised as love. You buy roses not to celebrate but to placate. You apologize not from remorse but from desperation, and you wait anxiously for validation like a beggar holding an empty bowl. And Epictetus across the centuries shakes his head slowly, saddened but not surprised. He saw clearly that freedom begins the moment you stop waiting for permission to be yourself. Freedom flourishes when you realize that no one, not a lover, not a friend, not even the gods, can grant you worth or steal it away. It was always yours to claim, and yet most men hand it away casually, never realizing that the price they pay isn't just their peace, but their very soul. Ask yourself honestly, is the approval of someone else worth the loss of your inner citadel? Is being liked by someone who barely sees you worth betraying the principles that define you as a man? If the answer causes discomfort, sit with it. This is the sting of awakening, the beginning of your emancipation from silent slavery. Because the moment you admit you've been living a role that was never yours, you begin reclaiming the role that always was, master of your own life. Remember Epictetus's timeless truth. No man is free who is not master of himself. And mastery begins not with conquering the world, but with refusing to surrender your integrity to those who never deserved it. You've probably felt it, the sinking feeling in your chest when a text remains unanswered for hours. You've waited, heart racing, trying to decipher silence as if it were a language you could somehow master. You spiral into a quiet madness, second-guessing every word, every gesture, every past interaction. Epictetus would ask, bluntly and without mercy, why you've willingly handed the compass of your life to someone who never asked to hold it. Why do you let someone else's mood determine your direction, your value, your peace? She is not your compass. Her approval is not your true north. And yet, modern men, intelligent and capable in every other aspect of their lives, regularly surrender their clarity and autonomy at the altar of romantic validation. They forget that happiness cannot be outsourced, that peace is never borrowed, and self-respect, once lost, can rarely be regained easily. Epictetus didn't warn men about women because women are inherently deceitful or manipulative. He warned men because he saw them willingly handing over their emotional sovereignty, turning their lives into a perpetual audition, hoping desperately to be cast in someone else's drama. He saw clearly that such dependency is not love. It's captivity masquerading as devotion, insecurity pretending to be affection. Imagine the absurdity clearly. Would you build your home on shifting sands? Would you anchor your ship to a wave? Then why would you build your self-worth on someone else's shifting emotions? Her feelings, her choices, her loyalty, they're hers, not yours. They are as beyond your control as the wind, the sea, the stars themselves. And yet men stake their self-worth, their dignity, their happiness on exactly these uncertain grounds. Freedom, according to Epictetus, lies precisely in this recognition. Some things are up to us, and some are not. Her feelings are not up to you. Her attention is not up to you. Her loyalty is never guaranteed by your goodness or your sacrifice. So why, Epictetus asks from the depths of Stoic wisdom, do you allow her to be the compass guiding your decisions, your reactions, your entire inner landscape? Your principles, your purpose, your reactions, these things are solely your responsibility. These are the stable grounds upon which your life should be built. If you find yourself compromising these sacred foundations to appease someone else's unpredictable mood, you've willingly entered into what Epictetus would call philosophical suicide, the destruction of your own inner sanctuary. Brother, remember this clearly. True freedom is mastery over oneself. It is the courage to remain unmoved by external storms. It is understanding deeply that while you can love deeply, you must never allow love, or the illusion of it, to steer your inner world. Because once you hand over your emotional sovereignty, you lose not only her respect, but your own. Epictetus calls from centuries past, reminding you gently yet firmly, reclaim your compass. Remember that your worth, your dignity, your direction was never hers to dictate. The path of self-mastery awaits not in her approval, but in your steadfast refusal to seek it. You've heard it said countless times, love requires sacrifice. But have you ever stopped to question exactly what you're sacrificing? Epictetus would demand that you pause, look deeply, and question if what you're giving up is genuinely enhancing your love or quietly eroding your soul. Because there's a fine line between noble compromise and spiritual castration, a line men cross daily without realizing they're losing vital parts of themselves. Too many men confuse passion with turmoil, drama with intensity, and emotional chaos with romance. They've been conditioned to believe that tolerating disrespect, enduring constant arguments, and suppressing their truths is part of loving deeply. But Epictetus saw through this dangerous confusion. He warned that a man who cannot distinguish between authentic love and destructive drama would inevitably lose himself entirely. Imagine clearly the man who silences his opinions out of fear of conflict, who apologizes reflexively even when he's done no wrong, who shrinks his dreams because his partner feels threatened by his ambition. This isn't love, this is emotional slavery disguised as devotion. Each small compromise feels insignificant, a gesture of peacekeeping, but over time these gestures accumulate, slowly hollowing him from the inside until he's unrecognizable even to himself. Epictetus would call this a tragedy, not simply because men lose their dignity, but because they mistake their degradation for virtue. They genuinely believe their sacrifice is noble, their suffering romantic, their submission proof of loyalty. Yet love that demands the erosion of self-respect is not love at all. It's a poison, sweetened with false promises of intimacy. Love, Epictetus reminds us, never requires betrayal of your values or abandonment of your principles. It should inspire you to become the strongest, clearest, most authentic version of yourself, not a shadow shrinking under the weight of another's expectations. True love respects boundaries. It honors integrity. It never asks you to silence your voice or compromise your character. Consider this deeply. If your relationship demands you betray who you are to maintain harmony, you're not experiencing love, you're enduring spiritual castration. You're willingly cutting away essential parts of your essence, hoping that in the loss you'll somehow gain lasting affection. But affection built on such self-betrayal is brittle, fragile, inevitably doomed. Epictetus would remind you sternly yet compassionately, reclaim yourself. Stop mistaking sacrifice for nobility. Stop confusing chaos with passion. Recognize clearly that authentic love empowers, it never weakens. If you find yourself diminished rather than enhanced, silenced rather than supported, exhausted rather than uplifted, you're not standing in love, you're kneeling in defeat. True love, the kind Epictetus believed worthy of pursuit, is rooted firmly in mutual respect, dignity, and strength. Anything less is simply an illusion, and the cost of chasing illusions is your very soul. What does it mean to betray yourself? It doesn't start with grand, dramatic acts. It begins in the quiet, saying yes when your soul screams no. It begins in moments where your values are traded for silence, where your dignity is mortgaged in the name of keeping the peace. Epictetus didn't need flowery language to address this. He simply said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Most men never truly say to themselves what they would be. They drift, pulled by emotion, shaped by relationships, molded by the perceived needs of others. And in this drift, they betray their original design. They become agreeable when they should be firm. They become apologetic when they should stand tall. They become emotional caretakers in relationships that do not return that care. Self-betrayal is subtle, but its consequences are devastating. It looks like laughing at jokes you don't find funny, nodding along to opinions that quietly offend your values, swallowing your truth to avoid a fight. But peace built on self-erasure isn't peace, it's paralysis. Epictetus would call it what it is, cowardice in disguise. We have been taught that to be loved, we must earn it. That if we're just more agreeable, more gentle, more accommodating, we will finally be chosen. But this belief system, Epictetus warns, enslaves men to external validation. A man who betrays his values to be loved has already sacrificed the only love that matters, his own. You were not made to be a mirror for someone else's desires. You were made to be a mountain, still, grounded, immovable by every passing emotional storm. But too often, men willingly erode their foundation to gain momentary affection. They don't just betray themselves, they dismantle themselves. They become reflections, not beings. Silhouettes, not souls. Epictetus didn't ask us to be cold. He asked us to be centered, to be unmoved by things outside our control. Your values, your time, your clarity, these are yours and yours alone. If you give them away in pursuit of someone's temporary approval, you're not being romantic, you're being reckless with your soul. Ask yourself now, when was the last time you stood your ground? Not out of anger, but out of alignment with your truth. When was the last time you walked away, not because you stopped caring, but because you cared about yourself more? To never betray yourself means to live in unshakable congruence between what you believe and how you behave. It means you stop performing and start being. It means the man you are in private is the same one who shows up in love, in conflict, in silence. Because the moment your actions contradict your principles, especially in pursuit of affection, you don't just lose her, you lose yourself. And the man who loses himself has nothing left to lead with. He becomes a ghost, present but powerless, visible but voiceless. Epictetus offers us a choice, one we must make daily. Either embody your philosophy or betray it. There is no third path. The man who lives what he believes may lose some people, but he gains himself. And in that gain, there is peace that no other approval can ever match. There comes a moment in every man's life where he must decide, will I remain a leaf, blowing in the wind of others' emotions, or will I become a mountain, still and sovereign? Epictetus never said it would be easy. He said it would be essential. Because the man who rises unmoved is the one who reclaims his soul. The modern world will try to convince you otherwise. It will tell you that standing firm is outdated, that being grounded is arrogant, that refusing to be emotionally manipulated is cruel. But Epictetus never told us to be liked. He told us to be free. And freedom, real freedom, begins when you stop seeking to be understood and start choosing to be unshaken. You don't rise by explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You rise by walking forward anyway, with your dignity intact, with your values unshaken, with the voice in your chest finally louder than the voices that once ruled your life. Let them say you're distant. Let them say you're too stoic, too hard, too cold. What they cannot say, what they will never be able to say, is that you betrayed yourself to please them. Because that man, the one who stands in silence while the storm rages, is no longer a hostage to affection. He is the storm's measure. Rise, brother, not to dominate, but to liberate. Not to control her, but to stop being controlled by your fear of losing her. That fear is not love, it is your test. And Epictetus made it clear, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Her moods, her choices, her desire, they are not yours to command. What is? Your integrity, your presence, your silence, your fire. So when she leaves, let her. When she mocks, remain silent. When she tests you, do not wobble. And when she tries to pull you back into that old role, the agreeable, apologetic, uncertain man, you simply look within and remember, that man is gone. You are no longer a mirror reflecting her chaos. You are no longer an actor performing for love. You are a man, anchored, aware, and unbought. And if grief comes, let it. That's not weakness, that's transformation. That's the burning away of your former self, the one who begged, who bent, who bled without boundary. Now you rebuild, brick by brick, word by word, boundary by boundary. You rise without fanfare, without announcement, without seeking recognition. Because you're not doing it for applause, you're doing it because you remember who you were before the world told you to shrink. And when that memory becomes a fire, you no longer chase peace, you become it. You no longer fear solitude, you wield it. You no longer ask to be chosen, you choose. And that, brother, is what makes you dangerous, not to women, but to every lie that ever told you that you needed to be less, so someone else could feel more. So if you must be called anything, let it not be agreeable, soft, or pleasing. Let them call you the mountain, the man who did not kneel, the one who walked away when the price of staying was his soul. And as Epictetus said, no great thing is created suddenly. You are that great thing. You are not finished, but you have begun. Now listen, if something stirred in you while hearing this, if even one line echoed inside your bones, then do something about it, like share and subscribe. But only if this message lit a fire in your chest. Support the channel through the link below. Not for me, for every man who's still asleep. Be the flame that wakes him, because Epictetus gave us the truth, but it's up to us to rise.